There is a frequency on the CB radio that most drivers avoid, a static-laced void where the lonely stretch of blacktop whispers its darkest secrets. Welcome back to Channel 19 Mysteries. I'm your host, Midnight Rider. Tonight, we're pulling off the safety of the main interstate and venturing down a desolate, dead-end road. We're going to explore what happens when the relentless, hypnotic grind of the asphalt shatters a person's grip on reality. We'll track the phantoms that pace the shoulders of our highways and uncover the terrifying truth behind seasoned drivers who parked their rigs, stepped out into the night, and simply ceased to exist. Have you ever stared into the abyss of a dark highway at 3 a.m. and felt like something unseen was staring back? Before we shift into gear and chase those fading taillights into the unknown, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below sharing your own unexplained encounters out on the road. Your support is the fuel that keeps this rig running into the night. So grab your coffee, check your mirrors, and make sure that sleeper cab is locked tight. Now, let's get into tonight's story. One last delivery. He never made it home. The road has a way of changing a man. It is a long, gray ribbon that unspools endlessly into the horizon, a hypnotic companion that demands total attention but offers nothing in return but solitude. For the long-haul trucker, the cab of a semi is both a fortress and a prison cell, a place where the world is watched through a pane of glass, moving at 65 miles per hour. It is a life of caffeine, diesel fumes, and the rhythmic thumping of 18 wheels against asphalt. But for one Canadian driver, the road became something else entirely, a pathway into a darkness so profound that he has never been seen again. This is the story of Trevor Angell. It begins in the quiet, chilly expanse of Cold Lake, Alberta, Canada. The date was September 20th, 2000. The air was crisp, carrying the early bite of a Canadian autumn, the kind that hints at the brutal winter waiting in the wings. Trevor Angell, a seasoned trucker with years of miles behind him, was preparing for a run that he had promised himself would be his last. Trevor was a family man, a husband and a father to a young son. He was a man who had grown weary of the phantom life of a long hauler. The missed birthdays, the lonely nights in truck stop parking lots, the voice of his wife reduced to a crackle over the phone lines, it had all taken its toll. He had told his family that he was done. He was disillusioned with the industry, tired of the isolation, and desperate to be a present father and husband. This trip, a run from Alberta down to the sprawling concrete jungle of Los Angeles, California, was to be his swan song. One last paycheck, one last look at the open road, and then he would hang up his keys for good. He climbed into the cab of his truck, the heavy door slamming shut with a finality that, in hindsight, feels chilling. He fired up the engine, the massive diesel beast rumbling to life, shaking the frame of the vehicle. He drove away from his home in Cold Lake, heading south toward Calgary to pick up his load. It was a shipment of meat, a standard haul, destined for the hungry markets of the American West Coast. The drive from Cold Lake to Calgary is a familiar one for any Albertan trucker, a stretch of highway that cuts through the heart of the province. Trevor arrived at the plant near Calgary around noon on that same day, September 20th, 2000. He loaded the trailer, secured the doors, and checked his logs. Everything was routine. Everything was normal. He pulled out of the lot, his nose pointed south, embarking on the 2,500-kilometer journey that would take him across the border and into the United States. For the next 24 hours, Trevor Angell was a ghost moving through the landscape. He crossed the border, the scenery shifting from the rolling prairies of Alberta to the rugged, big sky country of Montana. He pushed through the mountain passes, the engine brakes screaming as he descended the steep grades, the white lines flashing by like tracer fire. He drove through the stark beauty of Idaho and down into the red rock corridors of Utah. He arrived in Los Angeles, California on September 21st, 2000. The trip had been fast, perhaps too fast. He offloaded the meat at the destination, the docks bustling with the chaotic energy of the city. But the job wasn't done. A trucker doesn't drive home empty. That is deadhead miles. And deadhead miles don't pay. Trevor was scheduled to pick up a return load, a shipment of bananas destined for Calgary. He navigated the tangled freeways of Los Angeles, the traffic a river of red taillights and white headlights. He secured the load of bananas, checked the reefer unit to ensure the temperature was correct, and turned his truck north. He was heading home. He was heading back to Canada, back to his wife and son, back to the new life he had promised them. But somewhere in the noise and the heat of the road, something in Trevor Angell began to fray. On September 22nd, 2000, Trevor picked up the phone and called his wife. The connection connected him to the home he missed so dearly, but the voice on the other end of the line, his own voice, was not the steady, reassuring tone his wife was used to. Trevor sounded ragged. He sounded thin, stretched to the breaking point. He told her, in a voice that trembled with an exhaustion deep enough to rattle the bones, that he had not slept. "I haven't slept in 4 days," he said. Let that sink in. 4 days, 96 hours. The human mind is a fragile instrument. It requires rest to calibrate reality. After 24 hours without sleep, a person is legally intoxicated in terms of reaction time. After 48 hours, the edges of reality begin to blur. Microsleep's tiny, uncontrollable blackouts begin to occur. After 72 hours, hallucinations set in. Shadows begin to move. Inanimate objects take on life. Paranoia creeps in like a cold fog. Trevor Angell claimed to have been awake for 4 days. If this was true, he was driving an 80,000-pound missile down the interstate in a state of waking psychosis. His wife, alarmed and terrified, pleaded with him. She told him to pull over. She told him to sleep. The bananas could wait. The job could wait. His life was more important. Trevor agreed, or at least he seemed to. He hung up the phone. That was the last time she would ever speak to him. Trevor continued to drive. He made it out of California and crossed the state line into Nevada. He was on Interstate 15, the main artery connecting Los Angeles to Las Vegas. It is a road of stark contrasts, bright, blinding desert sun by day and an abyss of darkness by night, punctuated only by the neon oases of casino towns. He pulled his truck off the highway in Primm, Nevada. Primm is a strange place, a border town that exists solely to capture the money of travelers entering or leaving California. It sits on the edge of the Ivanpah Dry Lake, a vast, cracked expanse of earth. Dominating the skyline is Whiskey Pete's Hotel and Casino, a castle-like structure connected to the other side of the highway by a monorail. It is a place of artificial lights, the ringing of slot machines, and the transient souls of the road. Trevor parked his rig in the sprawling truck lot behind Whiskey Pete's. The GPS on his truck pinged his location. The engine idled, then went silent. It was now the morning of September 23rd, 2000. Inside the truck stop diner, a waitress moved through her shift, pouring coffee and taking orders. She looked up to see a man slide into a booth. He looked like a trucker, flannel shirt, jeans, the weariness of the road etched into his face. But this man looked worse than most. He looked haunted. His eyes were red-rimmed and wide, darting around the room as if tracking invisible threats. He was disheveled, his clothes rumpled, his movements jerky and uncoordinated. He ordered a bowl of oatmeal. The waitress brought it to him. She watched as he ate, his movements mechanical. He didn't speak to anyone. He didn't make eye contact. He just stared into the bowl, eating the warm, bland food as if it were the only thing anchoring him to the earth. When he was finished, he didn't pull out a wallet. He didn't swipe a card. He dug into his pockets and pulled out a handful of loose change quarters, dimes, nickels. He counted them out onto the table, paying for his meal with the shrapnel of his pockets. He stood up and walked out of the diner, back into the harsh, blinding sunlight of the Nevada desert. Later that same day, witnesses in the parking lot, other truckers, travelers, people passing through saw a man fitting Trevor's description, wandering near the parked semis. But he wasn't walking with purpose. He wasn't inspecting his tires or checking his load. He was stumbling. One witness reported seeing him clutching his stomach, doubled over as if in physical agony. He looked sick. He looked disoriented. He was a man in the grip of a medical or psychological emergency, wandering through a labyrinth of chrome and steel. He asked a passerby for help, his voice raspy and desperate. But in the transient, don't-get-involved world of a highway truck stop, the details of what happened next blur into the heat haze. Did anyone help him? Did anyone call for an ambulance? The record goes silent. Days passed. The bananas in the back of Trevor's trailer sat ripening in the Nevada heat. The company in Calgary began to worry. The truck hadn't moved. The GPS showed it parked at Whiskey Pete's in Prim, motionless. They called Trevor's cell phone. It went to voicemail. They called again, voicemail. Finally, they contacted his family. They contacted the authorities. The Nevada police were dispatched to the truck stop. They found the semi-truck exactly where the GPS said it was. It was locked. It was secure. The load of bananas was untouched. Inside the cab, everything seemed normal. Trevor's personal belongings were there, his clothes, his logs, his bedding. But Trevor Angell was gone. There was no sign of a struggle. No blood, no broken glass. The truck was simply abandoned, a hollow shell waiting for a driver who would never return. The search began. Trevor's parents, frantic with worry, flew down from Canada to Nevada. They walked the parking lot where their son was last seen. They plastered flyers with his face on every telephone pole and fuel pump in Prim. They spoke to the waitress who had served him the oatmeal. They spoke to the police. They searched the surrounding desert, the vast, unforgiving scrubland that stretches out in all directions. They found nothing. The mystery of Trevor Angell is not just that he disappeared. It is the manner in which he did so. The phone call to his wife, the claim of being awake for 4 days, hangs over the case like a shroud. There are theories, of course. There are always theories. Some believe that the sleep deprivation induced a state of psychosis. After 96 hours without sleep, the brain begins to misfire. Paranoia becomes the dominant reality. Did Trevor believe he was being chased? Did he see monsters in the shadows of the casino? Did he wander off into the desert, driven by hallucinations, only to succumb to the elements? The desert around Prim is harsh. A confused man wandering away from the lights of the casino could easily become lost. Dehydration and exposure would claim him quickly. Others point to the loose change. Why did he pay with change? Had he been robbed? Had he gambled away his money in the casino during those lost hours? Whiskey Pete's is a place where fortunes can vanish in the pull of a lever. Did shame drive him away? Did he lose the money for his fuel, the money for his family, and feel he couldn't go back? But Trevor was a man who wanted to go home. He had a wife and a son waiting for him. He had a plan to quit. Would a man so close to the finish line simply walk away into oblivion? And then there's the darker possibility. The road is a dangerous place. Truck stops can be hunting grounds. Did Trevor meet someone in that parking lot? Did he witness something he wasn't supposed to see? The witness who saw him clutching his stomach, was that sickness? Or was that the result of a poisoning? Was he drugged? There is a concept in the trucking world known as the black dog. It is a spectral hound that is said to run alongside the truck when a driver has pushed too hard, driven too long, and slept too little. To see the black dog is an omen. It is a warning that you have crossed the line between endurance and madness. Trevor Angell, on his final run, may have seen the black dog. The days turned into weeks, the weeks turned into years. The truck was eventually recovered by the company and driven back to Canada. The bananas were offloaded. The rig was cleaned and put back into service with a new driver behind the wheel. But Trevor Angell remained in Nevada, or at least his ghost did. His wife eventually had to move on. She remarried, trying to build a life out of the fragments left behind. His parents continued to search, their hope fading with each passing year, but never truly extinguishing. They grew older, the questions of what happened to their son haunting their every waking moment. To this day, there is no gravestone for Trevor Angell. There is no body. There is only a parking lot in Prim, Nevada, where the wind blows dust across the asphalt and the neon sign of Whiskey Pete's buzzes in the night. A Canadian trucker left his home in Cold Lake, Alberta on September 20th, 2000, seeking a way out of the life of the road. He found a way out, but it wasn't the one he wanted. In the annals of trucking mysteries, the case of Trevor Angell stands as a chilling reminder of the fragility of the human mind and the vast, indifferent power of the highway. It is a story of a man who drove until he couldn't sleep and then walked away until he couldn't be found. So, the next time you are driving down Interstate 15, passing through the glowing oasis of Prim, look out at the parking lot filled with sleeping giants. Look at the trucks idling in the dark. And remember the man who parked his truck, ate his oatmeal, and then stepped off the edge of the world. What do you think happened to Trevor Angell out there in the blistering Nevada heat? Was his disappearance the tragic result of severe sleep deprivation and a fractured mind, the haunting presence of the black dog, or did he meet a much darker fate in the shadows of that truck stop parking lot? Drop your theories in the comments below. I want to hear what you think. If tonight's journey down this dark stretch of highway sent a chill down your spine, please hit that like button. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to Channel 19 Mysteries so you never miss a ride into the unknown. Do you have a strange story from the road? A creepy encounter, an unexplained sighting, or a brush with something you still can't explain? I want to hear about it. Send your stories to mycreepyencounter@gmail.com and it might just be featured in an upcoming episode. Until next time, this is your host, Midnight Rider, signing off. Keep your eyes on the road, check your mirrors, and whatever you do, stay safe out there.